One Saturday morning, Bob got up early, put on his long johns, and began to dress quietly. He slipped into the garage and hooked his boat up to the truck, then proceeded to back out into a torrential downpour. There was snow mixed with rain, and the wind was blowing 50 miles per hour. He immediately pulled back into the garage, turned on the radio, and discovered that the weather would be bad throughout the day. Disappointed, he went back into the house, quietly undressed, and slipped back into bed. He cuddled up to his wife, now with a different anticipation, and whispered, "The weather is terrible outside." His wife sleepily replied,
"I know. Can you believe my stupid husband is out fishing in that shit?"
Jack walked into a sports bar around 9:58 p.m. He sat down next to this blonde at the bar and stared up at the TV as the 10 o'clock news came on. The news crew was covering a story of a man on a ledge of a large building preparing to jump. The blonde looked at Jack and said,
"Do you think he'll jump?"
Jack says, "You know what? I bet he will." The blonde replied,
"Well, I bet he won't."
Jack placed $30 on the bar and said, "You're on." Just as the blonde placed her money on the bar, the guy did a swan dive off the building, falling to his death. The blonde was very upset and handed her $30 to Jack, saying,
"Fair's fair. Here's your money."
Jack replied,
"I can't take your money. I saw this earlier on the 5 o'clock news and knew he would jump."
The blonde replies,
"I did too. But I didn't think he'd do it again."
There once was a great actor who had a problem. He could no longer remember his lines. Finally, after many years, he finds a theater where they're prepared to give him the chance to shine again. The director says,
"This is the most important part, and it has only one line. You must walk onto the stage carrying a rose. You must hold the rose between your finger and your thumb. Bring it to your nose, sniff the rose deeply, and then say the line, 'Ah, the sweet aroma of my mistress.'"
The actor is thrilled to get the part. All day long, he's practicing his line over and over again. Finally, the time came. As the curtain went up, the actor walked onto the stage, and with great passion, he delivered the line, "Ah, the sweet aroma of my mistress." The audience screamed with laughter, and the director was steaming.
"You bloody fool!" he cried. "You have ruined me!"
The actor, quite bewildered, asked, "What happened? Did I forget my line?"
"No!"
the director screamed.
"You forgot the rose!"
A man was sitting at a bar enjoying an after-work cocktail when an exceptionally gorgeous and sexy young woman entered. She was so striking that the man could not take his eyes from her. The young woman noticed his overly attentive stare and walked directly toward him. Before he could offer his apologies for being so rude, the young woman said to him,
"I'll do anything, absolutely anything that you want me to do, no matter how kinky, for $100. On one condition."
Flabbergasted, the man asked what the condition was. The young woman replied,
"You have to tell me what you want me to do in just 3 words."
The man considered her proposition for a moment, then withdrew his wallet from his pocket and slowly counted out 5 $20 bills, which he pressed into the young woman's hand. He looked into her eyes and slowly, meaningfully said,
"Paint my house."
Dave was bragging to his boss one day, "You know, I know everyone there is to know. Just name someone, anyone, and I know them." His boss was tired of hearing him boast and decides to call his bluff.
"Okay, Dave, how about Elon Musk?"
"Oh, Elon and me go way back, and I can prove it." So Dave and his boss fly out to California and knock on Elon Musk's door, and Elon shouts, "Dave, what's happening? Great to see you. Come on in for a beer." Although impressed, Dave's boss is still skeptical. After they leave Musk's house, he tells Dave that he thinks him knowing Elon was just lucky. No, just name anyone else, Dave says.
Bill Gates.
His boss quickly replies. Yep, Dave says. Bill and I are old buddies. Let's fly out to Washington. And off they go. At the Microsoft offices, Bill Gates spots Dave and motions him and his boss over. Dave, what a surprise. I was just on my way to a meeting, but come on in with your friend. Let's have a beer first and catch up. Well, the boss is very shaken by now, but still not totally convinced. After they leave the Microsoft offices, he expresses his doubts to Dave, who again asks him to name anyone else.
Pope Francis.
His boss replies. Sure, says Dave. I've known the Pope for years. So they fly off to Rome. Dave and his boss are assembled with the masses at the Vatican's St. Peter's Square when Dave says, Oh, this will never work. I can't catch the Pope's eye among all these people. Tell you what, I know all the guards, so let me just go upstairs and I'll come out on the balcony with the Pope. He disappears into the crowd headed towards the Vatican. Sure enough, half an hour later, Dave emerges with the Pope on the balcony. But by the time Dave returns, he finds that his boss has had a heart attack and is surrounded by paramedics. Making his way to his boss's side, Dave asks him, What happened? His boss looks up and says,
That was the final straw. You and the Pope come out on the balcony, and the man next to me said, Who the hell is that on the balcony with Dave?
A man comes home late after drinking all night. His upset wife greets him at the front door. She says,
You're drunk again. I've had it with you.
The man, slurring, says to her,
I'm not drunk.
The frustrated wife responds,
I can smell the liquor on your breath. You are drunk.
The husband, once again refusing to back down, says,
I'm not drunk, I tell you.
The wife then points at their grandfather clock and says,
Then can you tell the time?
The husband looks over intensely at the clock and says,
Of course I can.
The wife replies,
Well, go on.
Okay,
says the husband as he stumbles over to the clock.
watch me.
He then waves a finger at the clock and slurs,
I'm not drunk.
A woman goes into a tackle shop to buy a rod and reel for her grandson's birthday. She doesn't know which one to get, so she just grabs one and goes over to the counter. The woman notices a cashier is standing there wearing dark shades. She says,
Excuse me, sir. Can you tell me anything about this rod and reel?
The cashier replies, Ma'am, I'm completely blind, but if you drop it on the counter, I can tell you everything from the sound it makes. The woman doesn't believe him, but drops it on the counter anyway. The cashier says, That's a 6-foot Shakespeare graphite rod with a Zebco 404 reel and 10-pound test line. It's a good all-around combination, and it's on sale this week for only $20. The woman is astonished and says,
It's amazing that you can tell all that just by the sound of it dropping on the counter. I'll take it.
As she opens her purse, her credit card drops on the floor. Oh, that sounds like a MasterCard, the cashier says. As the woman bends down to pick up her card, she accidentally farts. At first, she is really embarrassed, but then realizes there's no way the blind clerk could tell it was she who farted. The cashier rings up the sale and says, That'll be $34.50, please. The woman is totally confused by this and asks,
Didn't you tell me the rod and reel were on sale for $20? How did you get to $34.50?
The cashier replied, Yeah, the rod and reel are $20. But the duck call is $11 and the bear repellent is $3.50. Little Johnny is pulling his old beat-up red wagon down the sidewalk. A local preacher is walking along the same path, just a few feet behind him. As they are walking, one of the 4 wheels on the wagon falls off. Johnny stomps his feet and yells,
Damn!
The preacher sees this as a great opportunity for a learning lesson. He says,
Johnny, as we go through life, things happen to us. Sometimes things are good, and sometimes things are bad. But the good news is that the good Lord is with us at all times. And for that reason, we should say, praise the Lord when good or bad things happen. Do you understand?
Yeah, I guess so.
replies Johnny as he picks up the wheel and tosses it into his wagon.
I guess I should be glad I still have 3 wheels left.
The two continue their journey. However, just a few minutes later, another wheel falls off the wagon.
Damn!
Yells Johnny.
Johnny, I think the words you are looking for are praise the Lord, for he is with you and looks after you during your times of distress,
replies the preacher. Johnny shrugs, picks up the wheel, and tosses it into the wagon. It's a little awkward pulling the wagon with only 2 wheels, but at least he can continue. Not more than a couple of minutes later, a 3rd wheel falls off.
Damn!
Pouts Johnny.
I think what you meant to say is praise the Lord,
Says the preacher.
Things may seem tough, but the good Lord is watching after you. These trials and tribulations will come and go, but you will survive,
Says the preacher.
I know.
Replies Johnny.
I was just shocked again. I will try harder next time.
Johnny bends down, picks up the wheel, and throws it into his wagon with the others. He can still pull the wagon with 1 wheel, but it is much harder to pull, so he must use 2 hands now. Just as Johnny is getting so tired that he can hardly continue, the last wheel falls off of the wagon. Johnny stops and looks at his poor wagon, which is obviously beyond pulling now. He takes a deep breath and with much enthusiasm and sincerity says,
Praise the Lord!
Suddenly, the wagon floats up in the air. Then one by one, the wheels reconnect themselves securely in place. The wagon then gently floats back to the ground, fully repaired. The preacher's jaw drops in awe and he says,
Damn!